happy Monday. We have a lot to unpack today. And before I get started, because some of what I'm going to refer to is technical, meaning it's aspects of the chart that you might want to have reference to as part of your understanding of your own chart. I want to just say, if you go to my Clubhouse page, that's KarenCurryParker.club, you should have access to the handout for today. Plus, Kristen, are there images in there as well of the different circuits?
Yes, there are.
Yay. See, we're all set up for you, of course. So anyway, go to KarenCurryParker.club if you have not already signed up there to be a part of our weekly updates so that you know what's up on the celestial weather for the week. Sign up there. If you're already subscribed, you can go and look at the report for this week along with some of the images that we're going to be referring to as we go through the material for the week. So I do want to encourage you this week to just get some tea or some coffee, sit back. I am probably going to speak for most of the hour just because there's so much to cover. And I want to make sure that you're well prepared. I want to, of course, start with a gentle reminder, because I didn't write this in the transit report. But again, I think it's important for you to know this. We're in a cycle where our job right now on the human level is to make sure that the stories we are telling about who we are true. And when I say true, I mean that you are telling stories that speak to your brilliance, your power, your abundance, your enoughness, the value and the nature of who you are, power of who you are, the lovability of who you are, the value of who you are. You need to be making sure that the story you're telling about yourself is worthy of you. And if there's anything that might be blocking you from remembering your worth, now is the time for you to get it cleared out of your story. So do stay tuned. We are going to be doing a master alignment program starting soon. I believe, Betsy, when is that starting?
Sorry, I had to get myself unmuted there. It starts on October 7th, and it runs for 10 weeks.
So this is a process, a program where we integrate human design with energy psychology and subtle energy techniques to help you decondition yourself in a powerful, multi-layered, multi-dimensional way. So the Master Alignment Program is a program that we offer on a sliding scale. It is open and available to anyone who is ready to clear the old stuff out of your story that might be holding you back from speaking the truth of who you are. So if we don't have a link up to that in the KarenCurryParker.club page just yet, we'll make sure we get one in there for you. On top of that, next week, not this week, but next week, Wednesday evening and Thursday midday, I'm going to be teaching a free class called Deconditioning by Design, which is a program that's going to help you explore what's underneath of your pain or any place where you might be telling a story that's limiting. We're going to be looking at, why are you telling that story? What's the purpose of that story? What's the function of that story? And again, how can you better tell that story so that the story you're telling about yourself is more in alignment with the truth of who you are? How can you begin to rewire your relationship with money, that was the manifesting generator friend of mine calling. So anyway,
and Karen, we do have that free webinar that Karen is talking about is linked on the KarenCurryParker.club page already. You can just click on the image and sign up for that. It's free.
Perfect. So it's free. This is just a bigger conversation we're going to have around how do we expedite the deconditioning process so you can tell a better story that's true, a good story, a beautiful story about who you are. All right.
And Karen, just to clarify also for that webinar, you're offering it twice, once in the evening U.S. and once during the day U.S. to accommodate different time zones. So if you're anywhere around the world, we invite you. potentially making this accessible so that everybody can join. So, but you do only need to attend one of those 2 times. I mean, if you really love it, you can attend both, but just saying it's twice to accommodate different time zones as well.
Once is enough. Yes, it will be the same webinar presented live twice, just because we have been really, I think, grateful and excited to have a large international audience. So we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to attend the class while they're awake and not at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Shout out to our Australians.
Yes. How many times have they taken classes from their beds? So,
oh my gosh, they've stayed up all night. Crazy.
Yeah, totally. All right, so let's explore the transits for the week. And I want to start this week by exploring the nodes, which I haven't talked about in a while. But the nodes are doing something pretty interesting. And I do have to give a shout out, I don't know if Alana's here, to Alana Heim, who brought this to my attention. And I about fell out of my chair when she shared it with us at our International Human Design Conference last week. And I was like, of course, duh, I haven't even looked at this in a while. So we are looking at the nodes today. And just a reminder that the nodes set the theme, or they give us the plot outline, if you will, for our personal and our collective narrative. So the way that I teach it, the South Node represents what we need to understand and learn from in order to move into the theme of the North Node. So the nodes shifted into the gate 34, the gate of power in the South Node, and the gate 20, the gate of patience in the North Node, completing the channel 3420. And this happened on September 5th. So the channel 3420, which is the archetype of the manifesting generator, right? It's that weird sort of right angle channel that directly connects the sacral to the throat. I call this channel in quantum human design the channel of responsive power. In traditional human design, this is called the channel of power and charisma. This channel itself is under a lot of evolutionary pressure. And really, so much of what we've been doing in the last few years, collectively and probably personally, has been to really redefine what does it mean to be powerful. The archetypes that we have about power and being powerful are not healthy in our collective culture. We have been deeply entrained to think that power is something that you usurp or you seize or you dominate with, and it's something that you use to fight for and claim your right place in the world. And really what we see when we look at the human design chart, even if we look at the human design chart before the 2027 evolution that is going to change the hardwiring of the chart, is that power in the chart is always nurturing, caring, to a certain degree responsive. It's not about something that you seize or take. It's actually something that you be. We see power living in the 731, the channel of the alpha, coming from the G to the throat. We see power in the 2145, which is really, I think, the channel that's giving us the biggest problem, because in the shadow of this problem, we have ego and lack, the dark side of ego and lack, and it causes us to take more than our fair share and to refuse to share. So, when we are working in the shadow of this lackful ego, I'm not enough energy, we take power in a way that is not constructive and not sustainable. And the third place where we see power in the chart is in this channel, the 3420, which is the sacral to the throat, the only place where the sacral makes a direct connection to the throat. And here's the thing that's so interesting about this. This is actually the most powerful channel in the chart. It is sustainable manifesting energy if you translate it, because it is a motor to the throat. And we know that motors to the throat give manifesting energy, but, and there's a big but, it's the sacral. And we know the sacral can't initiate. The sacral can only respond. So it does give us the power to respond to opportunities to be powerful or to use power, but it's the sacral. So the power of the sacral is always about taking care of others. It's about nurturing, sustaining, providing in a sustainable, enduring way. And it operates in response. You don't come up with an idea and go make it happen with a 3420. You wait. It's actually regulated by the gate 20, which is patience. You wait to see, is the timing right? Are people ready? Do we have all the things gathered that we need to have gathered in order to be poised to take right action? Do we have all the skills organized so that all the different people who are going to be part of this revolution that we're starting are in the right place, serving their right roles so that we can better serve humanity and create sustainably? This is a channel that is deepening itself in that expression. As we move out of the global cycle of the cross of planning into the incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is activated in February 2027, what we see is that the design of being human is really about making sure we have resources for everyone and that we are organized in such a way to be able to respond to the needs of others and disseminate and share and in a powerful way make sure that everyone has enough. Now, that's a different interpretation for those of you who have learned from Ra and Ra's interpretation of the solar plexus mutation. Ra says that this incarnation cross the sleeping phoenix, because it has this 3420 energy in it, and it's profoundly quote-unquote individual, which I'm going to unpack for you in just a minute, by nature, it basically means we're all going to be grabbing what we can and running with it and building little sort of tribal enclaves and shooting each other and fighting each other for sparse resources. And, I would say we could potentially go through a cycle like that if we don't get ourselves together here and start telling a better collective story. But in the end, if we look at what this really means for the story of humanity, what this means is that we're not going to do better until we all do better. That's inherent in the changes that are happening in the chart that come with the 2027 mutation. It will not be every man or woman or every human for themselves. And if we walk into this with this expectation that it's going to basically be a bunch of survivalists or Mad Max eking it out on the fringes of this, survival on the planet, first of all, that's not a very inspiring thing to build towards. And secondly, that's a shadow of what's possible. That's the shadow of what's possible. We always forget, I think, in the traditional way that we teach human design, that at the heart of the human story is the G center. The G center is the center for love and direction. And the direction of humanity is regulated by love. And love is not about seizing your stuff and guarding it with a gun and taking more than your share and hoarding. Love is about dropping into the energy of compassion, which we actually see is connected on the G center, the gate 15. The highest expression of love is to be the fulfillment of who we are, and to use the true story, the true fulfillment of our natural story, to not only make sure that we are enough and we have enough, but that we take what we have that's overflowing and we share with compassion with each other, that we create structures that allow for the adequate distribution of resources for everyone. And certainly in the higher expression of this 3420, and certainly through the lens of the incarnation cross, the sleeping phoenix, which has the 59-6 attached to it, which is all about doing the work necessary to create sustainable resources, we see that the potential high side of the future is not retreating into compounds, but rather opening up the gates and welcoming everybody into the warmth of the fire of our hearts and making sure that we understand and live from the place that we know that everyone does better when we all do better, and that we continually work to come together to create enough from our understanding of enoughness for everyone on the planet. You can fight me to the end of my days. I will never let go of this idea. This is the possibility that everything in the chart screams, including everything in the mutated charts, is telling us. It's telling us the possibilities of fully embodying the truth of love in the human story is coming to us, is opening up to us. And yeah, we might have a little bit of a bumpy ride to get there because there are people who are still healing the karma of their low sense of self-worth and the trauma that has come from all of us in some way, shape, or form, being told that it's not okay for you to be who you are or how you are, which is why really the most important thing we need to do right now is to heal our karma around our self-worth. But that is a long rabbit hole that's not actually in the written transit report today. So let me get back to what I was going to say. So, see, I can skip that paragraph. Okay, so let's go to both of the gates in the nodes, the 30 and 3420, are in what's called the individual circuit. In quantum human design, I call this the transformation circuit. This is the circuitry in human design, which is designed to initiate the world into the changes necessary to transform the world. So again, just quick reminder, if you go to KarenCurry.club, all the images for today's reports are on there. So if you're like, what is the individual circuitry? There's a picture for that. We got you covered. So the nodes are highlighting this 3420 until January 17th of 2022, and they continue to highlight gates in the individual circuit until 2024. Okay, so what does that mean? All right, so the first thing that I think is going to be really interesting is that all children born from September 5 until 2021 until January 17th of 2022 are going to be manifesting generators. So I think that means that the class of 2036 is going to be very interesting indeed. And I'll tell you, here's a funny, weird side note. I've run a lot of charts in my life. And when I run charts for teachers, there's a disproportionate number of projectors in the American school system, in the American school system. I don't know how it is in other places. The public school system is loaded with projectors. And I'm just like, I think we should start praying for the projectors now, for if they're still teaching, in 2036, they better be ready for the class of 2036, because they're about to get hit in about 5 years when these kids start kindergarten with a whole wave of manifesting generators. So the second thing that this means is that the themes of the individual circuit, remember that's transformation, will be highlighted for all of us for the next 3 to 4 years. There's going to be a lot more interesting facts that I'm going to reveal to you about these, but these are the 2 facts we're going to focus on today. I'll give you some more tidbits over the next couple of weeks. So we have to start first with just a basic class, if you will, on human design and circuitry. So in human design, there are 3 kinds of circuits: the individual circuit, which I call the transformation circuit in human design, the tribal circuit, which I call the sustainability circuit in quantum human design, and the collective circuit, which I call the synergy circuit in quantum human design. Each circuit plays an essential role in the evolution of humanity. So individual circuitry or transformation circuit brings mutation and change. So the tribal circuit, the tribal circuitry explores and implements the ideas brought in by the individual circuit, and once the change has demonstrated that it's functionable and adaptable, it's integrated into the collective. So think of it kind of like this. I'm going to tell you a story to kind of pull all these pieces together in just a minute. Imagine that there are 2 caveman brothers, Bob and Tom. I use the word Tom because my brother's name is Tom, and my brother Tom is actually a pure individual by design, and he's a 3-5. So my brother Tom lives on a sailboat, and last week, when there was a Category 1 hurricane in Houston, he stayed on his boat, and he sat on the edge of his boat during 5 hours of 65-mile-an-hour winds, so that he could keep kicking his boat off the edge of the dock and it wouldn't bump into the dock. I'm like, anyway, you talk about my brother Tom. Anyway, so there are 2 caveman brothers, Bob and Tom. Bob is a little weird and strange, okay? He tries his whole life to fit in, but nobody really gets him. So Bob eventually moves out of his family group and makes a home on his own by the edge of the fruitful river a mile or so away from his family, where he's very happy and free to do his own thing. Tom is very different from his brother Bob. Tom has a deep sense of being rooted in his family group, and he works tirelessly to make sure his family has everything they need to be healthy and abundant. This includes his brother Bob. So once a week, Tom travels to visit Bob at his home by the river to make sure that Bob is okay and thriving. Both brothers enjoy their weekly meeting because even though they're very different, they deeply love each other. One week, Tom notices that Bob is using a cool tool that he invented that makes construction and work much easier. Tom studies the tool and decides to make his own when he gets home for his family group. The tool is so popular and makes work so much easier that soon all of his family group has made their own, and they're using the tool to make building shelters and gathering fruit easier. In the fall, Tom travels with extra food and supplies over the hill to a gathering place with other leaders from different family groups. He brings his new tool with him, and other leaders from the different family groups see Tom using his new tool, and they make their own, bringing this new invention to their own family groups. Soon, the leaders of the different family groups gather together and decide that this tool is incredibly valuable and that all known family groups far and wide should have access to this tool because it saves so much time, energy, and effort. They create a committee to make the tools and to travel around the area, delivering the tools to different family groups and increasing the quality of life everywhere they travel. Now, Bob, our guy who lives by the river who made the tool, right, represents the core theme of individual circuitry, right? He doesn't quite fit in. He has his own ideas. He stays true to those ideas and travels on his own on a journey of self-exploration and self-expression. Bob's new ideas and insights profoundly influence Tom, who represents tribal circuitry, right? Tom is deeply occupied with exploring what would make the people he loves happy and safe, right? He takes great joy in nurturing others, and his contribution makes everyone around him feel loved and safe. The leaders from the other family groups who enable new legislation for the tool represent collective circuitry. Their joint actions create initiatives that not only make their own family group safer and more sustainable, they work to ensure that others have the same opportunities for growth and access to resources. Now, obviously, this is an idealized version of how all these circuits work together. And I want to just remind you here, excuse me, that we all have all the circuits and gates. You all have all the chart. There's a lot of conversation in human design about, I don't have this and I have that. You have it all. The stuff that's colored in and defined, that's part of your core life theme. These are themes that are going to repeat themselves over and over again because they're part of what you're here to master and learn. I call this your soul curriculum. The parts in your chart that are open or white, these are things that you're here to learn from others. So we all have all the gates and channels as part of our life story. We just experience them differently. And if we strictly just look at the definition, the stuff that's colored in your chart, we are all going to have a mix of all the circuits. Okay? Now, some of us are more profoundly influenced by the themes of the different circuits. So if you have channels in a particular circuit defined in your chart, it's going to most likely give you the theme of that particular circuit in your life story. And every once in a while, you'll come across a chart, like Jamie's chart. Jamie has like an entirely tribal chart. All of the channels in her chart are tribal. There are people who will have all individual circuits or channels defined, not circuits, channels. There are some people who will have only collective circuit channels defined. But the reality is, the most common expression of this is that we're all parts of all of it. And we all have different channels and gates in different circuits defined. So I don't want us to get too locked into, oh, I'm an individual and I'm a collective person and I'm a tribal person, because we're usually all a pretty good mix of all three. Now, here's where I'm probably going to get in trouble, and the odds are pretty high that somebody's going to make a SpongeBob SquarePants meme about me after I say this. So roll with me here. Or somebody's going to send me a long email telling me how I'm teaching it wrong. I think I got an email this morning from somebody who was like 25 telling me I'm teaching it wrong. I'm like, honey, you were 3 when I started this. Okay, let's be real. And that doesn't mean there isn't validity to it. But okay, so Ra used to teach that individual circuitry doesn't care. And I think, this teaching gets wildly misinterpreted. So I'm going to start first with the definition of the verb to care, all right? So the essential meaning of the verb to care means, 1, an effort to do something correctly, safely, or without causing damage. Number 2, things that are done to keep someone healthy or safe. And number 3, things that are done to keep something in good condition. So somehow in the interpretation of the phrase individuality doesn't care, we concluded that a lot of people who have a lot of individual circuitry don't have empathy. They don't have feelings for other people. They have little regard for what others think or experience, and basically can just wander the earth oblivious to the impact of their choices on others. As we say behind the scenes at Quantum Alignment System LLC, Lasai, right? Let's be clear. So this kind of not caring, that going out into the world and just doing whatever the heck you want and not worrying about how that impacts other people, that's actually the shadow expression of the will center, or the ego, not individuality. Okay? The will center, by the way, is almost exclusively defined by tribal energy. All of the channels connected to the will center, with the exception of the 2551, the channel of initiation in quantum human design, are tribal and actually are all about caring. It's only when we don't think that we are enough, or when we live from a place of lack, that we don't care and we stop caring about the impact of our choices on others. All right? So the not caring of the individual is not about not caring about others. And I really want to clarify that, because I've had so many people who have been so hurt by the statement of individuals don't care. Okay? It's not about not caring about others. It's about not caring about what other people think of your unique way of expressing yourself, of your innovative ideas, and your exquisite alignment with your authentic self. You do have to, when you have individual circuitry defining your chart in significant ways, you do have to learn to cultivate a little bit of a shield against other people's thoughts and opinions. Okay? The ability of the individual to stay true to their unique, vital, and irreplaceable role in the cosmic plan allows the individual to serve their essential role of bringing change and consequent evolution to the world. So when I used to do readings, and actually I have a daughter, my youngest daughter has the 4323 defined by her conscious sun and earth. So I have this conversation a lot with her, because I'm trying to instill this into her consciousness. If you have a significant individual circuitry defined in your chart, you are here to be different, because you're here to bring change, and you're not going to be bringing change if you're like everybody else. And so the challenge then becomes to learn to cultivate a self-worth shield, if you will, to protect you from worrying about what other people are going to think about you when you follow your own initiative. So when we live in alignment with our authentic self, and we claim our personal place in the cosmic plan, we live from a place of understanding our value. And that recognition of our own personal value enables us to not only claim our value, but also ultimately to see the value of others. Because if you know that you have a right place and a unique role, then everybody else does too, right? And so now you're not fighting for somebody else's place. You're standing strongly in your own. And from that place, you're then lifting everybody else up, because we all do better when we all do better. All right. So it takes tremendous courage and self-worth to fulfill the destiny of individual circuitry, and cultivating that is the challenge facing us over the next few years. So I'm going to say that again, because it's so important. It takes tremendous courage, write that word down, and self-worth, write that phrase down, to fulfill the destiny of individual circuitry. And cultivating that courage and self-worth is the challenge facing us over the next few years. This next cycle tasks us with learning to trust in the timing of the universe. Another thing we kind of have a hard time with, right? We are mastering, waiting patiently and preparing to take action when the timing is right, and to keep our energy occupied in constructive ways while we wait. We're activating our personal empowerment and letting go of playing small, stepping into the unapologetic expression of who we are, and claiming and defending our unique role in the world. Okay, so this is what's up for us until 2024. And this is a big part of making sure that your personal narrative really holds a space for this important job of cultivating courage and healing self-worth. So Ra used to also teach that the role of the individual is to be themselves, because it's from that place of alignment with the authentic self that the individual shows others how to be true to who they are. I agree with this. Okay? So be nice with the memes. Alignment with the authentic self creates a high frequency of energy and a state of physiological heart coherence, which in turn influences your electromagnetic resonance. All of these states are contagious. When you live true to yourself, you create a wave of energy that lifts others up and encourages them to be in the same energy field of pure self-expression. Your alignment creates a resonance field that entrains others to be in alignment too, which then spreads to other people and to more people and to other people and to more people and to other people and to more people and so on and so on and so on. This is the power of individuality. Individuality co-regulates. All right? It's like this. If you're like twisted up on your surfboard and you panic because your ankle cord is trapped underneath the surfboard in a weird way, and you're going under the board and you can't get up, and somebody swims over to you and looks you in the eyes while they untangle you, and instantly you lock eyes with this calm person. You're being co-regulated and your panic subsides. That's the job that we have when we step into the true story of who we are and we hold it. We have the ability to look to people in our lives. We have the ability to look at the people we encounter in our lives on a daily basis into the eyes and bring calm when they're panicking, to remind them of who they are in case they forget and they lose connection to that authentic place. You're here to co-regulate the world through your own alignment. So think about this, and think about this in the context of Bob, right? What would have happened if Bob had denied his own alignment with his authentic individual self, right? What if he'd sucked it up? What if he'd settled down and forced himself to fit inside the tribal box he was born into? What might never have been born into existence if he had failed to follow his own true path? What might never be born into existence if you fail to follow your own true path? That's the question for us to explore and contemplate over the next few years. What might never be born into existence if you fail to follow your own true path? Okay, that's the overview between now and 2024. Okay, let's get to the transits for the week. So I want to talk briefly about Jupiter and Saturn and relationships, and then give you an overview of the Sun and the Earth. So Jupiter and Saturn are both still doing their retrograde cha-cha-cha, right? The energy of Saturn is always about teaching and learning. Saturn brings us lessons through the events of our outer reality, right? So Saturn gives us, anytime we're playing with the energy of Saturn, we're exploring and contemplating, how do I mature, right? How do I get deeper with my purpose? How do I expand on the true story of who I am? So with their benevolent hand, Saturn sweeps the landscape and highlights all the obstacles we need to remove out of our path. So yes, sometimes these lessons can feel cataclysmic, especially at the end of our 20s and the end of our 50s. And they can even feel punitive sometimes if you have kind of a victim perspective. And, really this only happens if we're significantly out of alignment with our authentic self. But the purpose of these sort of Saturnian cataclysmic events is to show us what we need to work on as part of our evolution and growth. Jupiter always plays with Saturn. They play together well when Saturn's doing its job. And Jupiter highlights where we're going to benefit or where we'll grow once we master the lessons of Saturn. So with both of these planets being retrograde, and anytime we have a retrograde cycle, and we got a bunch of planets retrograding right now, that we're really kind of drawing inward. We're contemplating. We're getting an internal do-over you don't actually get a do-over, but you definitely get to look at, okay, what just happened here? And you have some interesting opportunities to really explore, on the internal plane, what do I need to change and realign so that when I emerge from this retrograde cycle, I've integrated the lessons that I just mastered, okay? So we're being, invited to really learn from, I would say, learn from what's happened so far from the beginning of this year up until now. So Saturn is in the gate 41, which is actually an initiating gate. It's a gate that turns everything on. The human design year actually starts in the gate 41. This is called the gate of imagination. Jupiter is in the gate 49, the gate of the catalyst. So we're either on the internal plane, imagining something better and starting to take some bold actions to create space to call that something better into our lives. It's not necessarily a doing energy, but it's a getting ready to do energy. And and here's the big or, if we're reacting to fantasies about our partnerships and either failing to take the right action, or we're creating messy drama around something that might not actually be true. So we really need to be mindful in our partnership energy right now and in our relationship energies to really make sure that you're being honest, that you're really evaluating things without the lens of fantasy clouding the truth, that you're creating an energetic prayer field, if you will, for right partnership, right relating, right possibilities, and you're clearing the playing field, if you will, getting out of the way any obstacle that might be keeping you from calling in what you're dreaming of. So a really good time to really think about, what do you need to change in the nature of your relationship energies? What needs to grow? What new vision do you need to hold for the evolution of your partnerships, your friendships, your business relationships? And where might you need to start a revolution to create space to call in something better? And that doesn't necessarily mean you end the relationship, but you certainly need to explore, are there agreements in your relationship that need to come to an end so that you can better create a new platform for growth and expansion? So assess your relationship status carefully right now and use this powerful time to imagine what you really want and to imagine what you want to be experiencing so that you can create a love revolution in your life. The sun this week transits the gate 46, the gate of embodiment. The earth grounds us in the gate 25, the love of spirit. This is the incarnation cross of the vessel of love. This is a cross of energies that happens in the middle of every one of the 4 creative quarters of the year. So we always start each creative quarter with an exploration of the direction that we're taking. We're in a quarter right now that has a lot of work associated with it. It's the harvest quarter. We're really doing the work of making sure that, metaphorically, the last stages of the summer garden are being handled. We're harvesting. We're getting out there and spraying the neem oil on the mold and the powdery mildew growing on the squash and the pumpkins so that we have a good harvest, right? That's the work we're doing. And, this work is really setting us up to sort of come to the conclusion of the year, to prepare the beds, if you will, at the end of this quarter, to lay fallow, to regenerate so that come next year you'll have new ground, but an evolved, healthier foundation to continue to grow and build from. So in the middle of this quarter, we're being invited to really look at the body and to really contemplate the body as a vehicle for the soul. Because without a strong, vital, and healthy body, it's really hard for us to fulfill our soul purpose, right? So this week, we're really focusing on the body. We're learning to love our bodies, to fully be in our bodies, and to learn to love the sensual nature of the physical form and to move it with love and awareness. So I have to do a quick aside because yesterday I completely terrified somebody at the grocery store. There was this beautiful woman. I mean, just this beautiful, beautiful woman wearing overalls. and she had this really beautiful dark skin. And she had just gotten a tattoo, so she had, like, the cellophane over her tattoo. And she had gotten tattoos of turnips and beets on her arm. You guys probably don't know that I'm a complete and total, like, vegetable garden nerd and a complete and total vegetable cooker. I love to cook and create things with vegetables. I have the 50-27 defined in my chart. It is my passion. My CSA box, my farming box that I get every year, and my vegetable garden that my husband built, like, I live for my vegetable garden. And to me, I was like, the Gate 46, there's the body, right? This beautiful body with this beautiful, sensual shape and skin. And then she put these amazing tattooed these turnips and beets on her arm. I was just like, this is the ultimate of beauty for me, right? So I was just like, this is the transits for the week. This woman is living the transit. She just got vegetables tattooed on her body. Anyway, we are learning to love our bodies, to fully be in our bodies, and to learn to love the sensual nature of our physical form, and to move it with love and awareness, and to not freak out people who have new tattoos with turnips on their arms and point out to them how amazingly beautiful they are. So there is a deep relationship between the directive of your soul and your physical ability to express that directive. In other words, if you're not taking care of your body, it's very hard to do what your soul needs you to do. And I want to add a little weird twist to this because, in case you haven't figured this out, when we look at circuitry, my voice is purely individual. So I have a freaky voice, if you will. One of the things that I keep getting more and more direction on from my guidance, my internal guidance, is that we need to be preparing our bodies to hold higher frequencies of love. And I don't think we're gonna have time for questions today because I have to hop off of this call onto another call really quickly. But I want to go down a weird rabbit hole, so roll with me. And if I go too far, I apologize in advance. But I am giving you seeds that maybe will transform you. So some of you might not know that in my very first job, well, maybe this is my fourth job, I worked as a psychic medium. I actually worked as a psychic at a walk-in psychic/healing center in Sedona, Arizona. It was not a job that I ever would have dreamed of having for myself. It certainly was a job I stumbled into out of financial need, frankly. I had 4 kids to feed at that time, and it was the only job I could find. But it turned out to be something that I was actually pretty good at. I was so very good at being a psychic medium, so good that, in fact, I got invited to go to Tucson, Arizona and have my brain scanned because they wanted to see how my brain functions. And it does function a little bit differently than some people's brains, in case you didn't know that by now. So anyway, so when I used to do mediumship readings, I very often did readings for people who had lost children. And I did a lot of readings for people who had young adult children who had either died from suicide, or at that time there were a lot of people who had died from AIDS. And I had this experience one time. Well, let me just back up and say, when you do mediumship readings, because when you connect with people who are not in bodies anymore, or energies that are not in bodies anymore, sometimes the frequency of the energy was so high, my body literally couldn't hold it. So I would get an upset stomach. Sometimes after the reading was over, I'd be really, really shaky. I'd have to really consciously work on getting myself grounded. I mean, there were many times after doing 4, 5, 6 readings in a row where I'd go to my car and I'd have to call my husband and say, okay, remind me how to get the car started again, because I couldn't remember, like, how do I use the key and get the car started? And I can't even imagine how I drove home in Sedona, Arizona, down these windy mountain roads. Sometimes I literally don't even remember getting home. It was not safe. Anyway, I really was struggling with staying in my body and keeping my body dialed into this frequency. It was really just like so much love when you don't have a body that was just, it would blast my body with love, right? And I would cry, and the person I was doing the reading for would cry. I mean, it was just this really intense, energetic experience. And after I did a reading one time for a young man who had died from AIDS, his mom left. She had come for the reading, and he stayed with me after she left. And he taught me how to stay open to those frequencies, but not let it trash my body. So I got this lesson from this dead person about how to hold higher frequencies of energy. And I'm bringing this back to a very specific point, so forgive me if I ramble too much. But one of the guidance that I keep getting is that we all need to be preparing our bodies to hold on to higher frequencies of energies as we clear our conditioning, as we get rid of those old stories that don't fit us, as we move into higher states of heart awareness and heart coherence, we are going to be receiving and holding higher frequencies of energies, and our bodies have to be able to handle that. And so I certainly would say to you, be really mindful of staying grounded, knowing how to stay grounded. If you don't know how to stay grounded, if you talk to Jamie, give them your website address.
You can find me at JamilaJamie.com.
Okay, JamilaJamie.com. JamilaJamie.com. Jamie has an incredible flower essence for grounding, so go get that from her. But really, I would just say this week, as you think about making sure your body is a vehicle for your soul, make sure your body is also a good vehicle for higher frequencies of energies, that you can hold those higher vibes. And that means making sure your inner and outer environment is a high frequency, high quality environment. That means making sure you eat clean, whatever your internal guidance is telling you about eating clean. Make sure you're taking care of your body, nurturing it, resting it, sustaining it, because those frequencies of energies it's hard to hold them if your body's not able to hold them.
Drinking a lot of water. I just wanted to add
drinking a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Drinking enough water. And I have to add one other piece. Again, this is guidance that I'm getting. You might get totally different guidance, but I have gotten a lot of guidance about really taking care of the fascia in the body. Like, the fascia in the body holds memories. It holds conditioning. And when we work on releasing those energies out of the fascia and out of the body, it actually creates more flexibility, more fluidity, and again, increases our ability to hold other frequencies or higher frequencies of energy. So, all right. Other thoughts, comments, questions, anything you guys want to say? I think we can take one comment, I guess, today.
I just wanted to say, for the fascia release even, I mean, there's different tools out there, but I personally have a yoga wheel. You can just Google it. And especially being at the computer all day, and I roll out my back on the yoga wheel, and it's amazing. So I just wanted to share that little tip for anyone.
Totally. And I work with a woman, the body of work from a woman named Deanna Hansen, and she actually has a bamboo block that you work on, and she has these amazing, extraordinary protocols that basically wring you out inside out and release all kinds of stuff, but it's really powerful. And same thing, if you're on the computer a lot, you really need to be able to get out of those torqued tight positions and keep your body open and in the flow.
Karen said she can take one quick question, so if anyone wants to raise their hand, we can pop you up on stage. What an amazing report this week. This was just pure fire. I'm going to be listening to this one multiple times, I think.
I'm just noticing no one's raising their hand, so I'm just hoping I didn't scare them off. So I'm sorry, you guys, if we went too far. But hey, it's individuality, so here we are. Hi, Paige. Welcome.
Hi.
Nice to see you again.
I like your vision of the next 7 years better than others I've heard.
I'm glad. I mean, the others are kind of scary. So, I think, I do think, and this is not meant to be scary, Paige, but I do think that, we're at a crossroads. We're going to get to the good stuff no matter what. We will get to the good stuff no matter what. I do think that part of what's at stake for us right now, though, is deciding how are we going to get there. Are we going to take the rough road, or are we going to take the scenic route? And I'm definitely voting for us to take a kinder, gentler path and to not let ourselves get swept up in the chaos and the drama. So thank you. Sylvia, hop out. Okay, you guys don't know this. Sylvia? I should have got it. I said something about my brother. So anyway, I've known Sylvia for a long, long time. Back when I was a kid, I've known Sylvia. And am I allowed to say how I know you, Sylvia? Can you unmute?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. There we go. I thought I had unmuted. I was laughing so hard. Yes, you can certainly, and I'm going to have to listen to the recording because I didn't pop in till towards the end. So I'm
good.
now I'm really curious.
Yeah, so I was just talking about, so Sylvia used to date my brother Tom in college way back in the day. So hi.
Hi there. Hi. Okay, so I have a question about the frequency, and you were talking about being able to hold higher frequencies, and it's really interesting because lately I have felt like this real struggle to get out of to be able to raise my frequency, and I think it has a lot to do with things around me and people around me because of my business. So I'm curious, what are some good things, Karen, to start doing that? Like, what are some good things for somebody to do to kind of start moving and changing that direction, to drop and get, kind of protect yourself, I guess, from lower frequency people that you have to be around? It feels like it attaches, I guess. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, there's so much to unpack. This is a whole nother hour, but I'll just make a really fast list.
Okay.
First thing, I would say, first of all, know your human design chart and really understand where you're open. Because oftentimes what's happening when we're trying to cultivate a higher frequency is that we let our energy field get hijacked by other people's energies and we misinterpret it. The second thing that I would suggest, and nobody likes this, but get off social media. At least have at least one 24-hour day a week, and I really think more if you can, where you literally are not on a device at all, except maybe taking phone calls from your kids and grandkids or parents. Go outside regularly, and if you can, don't just go outside. I mean, I live in the city. Take yourself somewhere where you can be in nature, because nature, especially trees, are incredibly healing. There's actually research around this. Or horses. By the way, horses have a giant heart, and I just read a research report last week about why so many people think horses heal. Is horses have such a big heart that their heart has this giant electromagnetic resonance field, and it entrains or co-regulates our hearts, and we feel good when we're around horses. Unless you're scared of horses like I am, and then maybe not so much, but horses can be good for some people. Eat clean. And I do recommend this. I'm not saying you have to stick with it, but there is a very interesting shift that happens when you go to a plant-based diet. When, if you've ever read I'll say William Tuttle has a book called Diet for, I forgot the title of his book, but look it up, Will Tuttle, Tuttle. He talks about how when we eat a lot of meat, especially meat that's factory raised, that we internalize the energy of fear that's present in the animal at the moment that they're killed. And he says, the whole world would change if we all ate plant-based. Now, I don't want to get into that conversation because it starts to trigger a whole lot of things. And I really do believe you have to follow your own inner authority around food. But I do recommend that sometimes it's good to just get off the meat products just for a couple of weeks, just to get your body sort of back in sync with a different quality and quantity of energy. As Kristen said, drink a lot of water, do yoga, anything that's fascia release, float in a sensory isolation tank, and do that for at least once a week for 90 minutes. That's a good way to kind of retrain yourself. Watch your thoughts, pray, talk to your angels, talk to your spirit guides, pray to God. Anything that you can do to keep yourself in those energy. Cindy bowed out, but Cindy could tell you all kinds of crystals and stones that you can use to lift your frequency. And, love yourself enough to try to put yourself around people who are going to hold your space and hold your frequency and lift you up. And that's sort of my short, quick list, Sylvia.
Okay, that's really helpful, because it really feels like sludge. Like, it literally feels like trying to flow through sludge, and it's hard to explain. So that's a really good start list. Thanks a bunch, Karen. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sylvia, and it's good to hear you.
Same here.
All right. right. That's it for this week. So take care of your bodies, own your freaky selves, be strong in your freakiness, and keep telling yourself a story that's true about how powerful, beautiful, magnificent, amazing you are. And next week, mark your calendars and pay attention. Small detail change. Next week, we will actually be meeting at 8:30 a.m. Central instead of 9. So we will be here 30 minutes early, and that's going to happen for the next 4 weeks. So for the next 4 weeks, we're bumping up 30 minutes. So we'll be meeting at 8:30 a.m. Central instead of 9 a.m. Central. But we will be here. So join us. And again, if you want a summary of everything we've talked about today, KarenCurryParker.club. Go there. Everything I talked about today is there and more. Make sure you check out all the links. Make sure you sign up for our free program coming up next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And thank you, Kristen, Betsy, Jamie, and Cindy. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye.